of reaching a public that doesn't have a professional need to know.
I completely agree with that. I almost think you'd scare the public if you put this out. Like, why are they telling me this? Should I be concerned about my bank?
No. So what is it that none of us are supposed to know that we shouldn't know, right? So all of the checking account, savings accounts, all the bank stuff that we have in the banks equals $9 trillion. That's all of our deposits added together as Americans is $9 trillion. The FDIC, the insurance that's supposed to cover that, has $125 billion worth of assets. So you do the math. That's 1.388% of all deposits. That's all that the FDIC has. If there were a run on the bank because people knew this issue, there's not enough insurance to cover people's losses. So in the summer, the Fed changed the reserve requirement to 0. So banks don't have to have anything on hand.
Introducing Ectolife, the world's first artificial womb facility, powered entirely by renewable energy. Ectolife allows infertile couple to conceive a baby and become the true biological parents of their own offspring. It's a perfect solution for women who had their uterus surgically removed due to cancer or other complications. With Ectolife, premature births and C-sections will be a thing of the past. Ectolife is designed to help countries that are suffering from severe population decline. Each state-of-the-art lab can accommodate up to 400 growth pods or artificial wombs. Every pod is designed to replicate the exact conditions that exist inside the mother's uterus. Each group of pods is connected to 2 central bioreactors. The first bioreactor contains nutrients and oxygen, which are supplied to your baby through an artificial umbilical cord. This bioreactor also contains a liquid solution that serves as the amniotic fluid that surrounds babies in the mother's uterus. The second bioreactor is designed to eliminate any waste products produced by the babies. Every growth pod features sensors that can monitor your baby's vital signs, including heartbeat, temperature, blood pressure, breathing rate, and oxygen saturation. The artificial intelligence-based system also monitors the physical features of your baby and reports any potential genetic abnormalities. The pods are equipped with a screen that displays real-time data on the developmental progress of your baby. These data are sent directly to your phone so you can track your baby's health from the comfort of your zone. Because babies can recognize language and learn new words while still in the womb, Ectolife growth pods feature internal speakers that play a wide range of words and music to your baby. Through the app, you can choose the playlist that your baby listens to. You can also directly sing to your baby and make them familiar with your voice before birth. Our goal is to provide you with an intelligent offspring that truly reflects your smart choices. With Ectolife, miscarriage and low sperm count are a thing of the past. Prior to placing the fertilized embryo of your baby inside the growth pod, in vitro fertilization is used to create and select the most viable and genetically superior embryo. And if you want your baby to stand out and have a brighter future, our Elite package offers you the opportunity to genetically engineer the embryo before implanting it into the artificial womb. Thanks to CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing tool, you can edit any trait of your baby through a wide range of over 300 genes. By genetically engineering a set of genes, the Elite package allows you to customize your baby's eye color, hair color, skin tone, physical strength, height, and level of intelligence. It also allows you to fix any inherited genetic diseases that are part of your family history so that your baby and their offspring will live a healthy, comfortable life free of genetic diseases. Say goodbye to the pain of childbirth and birth-related muscle contractions. Ectolife provides you a safe, pain-free alternative that helps you deliver your baby without stress. After discharging the amniotic fluid from the artificial womb, you will be able to easily remove your baby from the growth pod. Everything is perfectly designed so you and your partner can enjoy the delivery process. To ensure full transparency, our post-delivery free DNA paternity test helps you confirm the genetic identity of your baby so you can return home knowing that your baby is genetically yours. And for those who want a more convenient solution, Ectolife is made accessible so your life can be easier. Thanks to our miniaturized bioreactors and long-lasting batteries, you can use Ectolife growth pods at the comfort of your home, allowing you to incubate your baby in your building without the need to visit our factory.
got some news to break, but your assessment also over the weekend of how the Democrats are a little bit like you pick up a rock and cockroaches run out. They're not exactly forming a group of blockers for the Biden administration. Kash Patel.
Hey, it's great to be with you. Happy Martin Luther King Day, Steve. Look, I think when you have the trifecta that is Joe and Mika, Watermelon Head, and Warnock come out and basically talk about classified information as if we, the Republicans, were all of a sudden not talking about classified information. That might be the biggest takeaway for me from that piece. At what point, Steve, has your show not talked about the Mar-a-Lago raid and the importance of classified documents? We've said that from day one. We've talked about the law and educated the American public on the law. And what I picked up over the weekend was the focus here, and this is for your audience, focus, not on Joe Biden. He's not the target for us. The target for us is the administrative state and the highlighting of the two-tier system of justice, especially when you have the Democratic media come out and basically attempt to defend Joe Biden, but what they're doing in reality is setting the roadwork and the framework to have Joe Biden taken out so they can have another Democratic presidential candidate run in his place. And we got to be careful about overreaching. Right now, we have the facts and the law on our side. We just have to not politicize it by making Joe Biden the target. The target is and has always been taking out the deep state.
In the deep state, I want to talk about this because you got to bifurcate this. Whenever our audience is more sophisticated than anybody. One, you're more sophisticated and you're more immersed in details. Number two, we bring in the best people in the world to make sure they can actually put the information out and then frame it so the people can use it in their personal lives. This is bifurcated. It's got to be November 2nd and then post the cover-up. So let's hold the cover-up for a second, When we talk about administrative state, Dana Remus, and finally somebody's on top of this, Jonathan. I think Molly Hemingway tweeted it over the weekend about somebody's got to look at the lawyers, and then Jonathan Turley wrote a great piece in the, I think, New York Post. I've put that up about the lawyers. She's the White House counsel that then goes into private practice. And you understand, Cash, and I know Christina Bobb does. The White House counsel is the lawyer for the office of the president, from General Washington all the way down to the current. They represent the office of the president, like John Dean. You don't represent Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Ronald Reagan as a person. That you have personal lawyers. So the White House counsel, Dana Remus, leaves the White House counsel right before November 2nd. I think she announces in July. I believe her last day was October 2nd. I think it's that day. She's the one rummaging around on November 2nd. She's rummaging around in the closet at the Penn Biden CCP think tank center. Why are they not giving? They don't want to talk about that at all. All the media wants to focus on is the cover-up, because they understand the cover-up here is bad. But this is a case where the cover-up's not going to be as bad as the crime. There's something going on, brother. How Dana Remus is making $2,500 an hour. She's big league, top tier. The e-ticket is representing Joe Biden as an individual. Everybody wants to get to you. I think she's over Gibson Dunn. I don't think she's at Perkins Coie. I think she's at Gibson Dunn. Why is she rummaging around? Cash, you're a former prosecutor. You're a lawyer. You were the senior counsel to the Intelligence Committee. You're one of the most highly respected lawyers in the city. Why is Dana Remus rummaging around in Biden's when they should have movers doing it or staff doing it? Why is one of the most powerful lawyers in Washington, D.C. rummaging around in the Penn Biden CCP Center, sir?
Steve, you have highlighted a point that nobody is talking about, and it's because it shows you that there are no coincidences in government with these government gangsters. It's not a coincidence she left the White House counsel. It shows to me how long they have known about Joe Biden's mishandling and violation of the law when it comes to classified documents. Like you and I talked about for the first time on this show before any other media did, this investigation began before November, before the election. We are only being told now, months later, that was the start date. That's BS. When you have the biggest lawyer in the country who represents the office of the presidency leave her post to go basically manhunt for documents, you know it happened. And here's the kicker. Here's another lawyer that no one's talking about, Bob Bauer, Joe Biden's personal new attorney. Do you know where Bob Bauer used to be a senior partner of litigation for? Perkins Coie with Sussman and Mark Elias. These are not coincidences.
Hold it. Bob Bauer is the architect of the big steal. Mark Elias was his grundoon. Mark Elias is his enforcer. Mark Elias is the engineer. Bob Bauer is the architect. The entire removal of Trump in the 2020 election, Bob Bauer is the man. And oh, guess what? Another coincidence, married to Anita Dunn. Anita Dunn and Susan Rice, whose fingerprints are all over this from the White House.
Wait, I got one more lawyer.
Go ahead.
I got one more lawyer for you. Do you know who is the national security and senior advisor to Merrick Garland, the number one government gangster? The wife of Jake Sullivan, the current national security advisor to the United States of America, is advising Merrick Garland on the legality and national security implications of both of these investigations. Not a coincidence that this lady is out there manhunting documents for Joe Biden. She's running the investigation, she being the wife of Jake Sullivan. And of course, Jake Sullivan, who's the biggest Hillary Clintonite in the world, is in the White House with Susan Rice, running this operation to get rid of Joe Biden.
How are the big law firms in this city totally inextricably linked to the administrative state and the government gangsters because they go back and forth? How powerful are the law firms in this city in making and backing, having the back of the government gangsters being part of it and driving the agenda of the administrative state, sir?
They're worse than the lobbyists, and that's rough saying. They are worse than the lobbyists. Let me give you one example. King Spalding. Do you know who is a senior law partner at King and Spalding right now? Rod Rosenstein. Do you know where Chris Wray used to be a senior partner? King Spalding, before he became the FBI director. Do you know who's now the current national security advisor to King Spalding? Gina Haspel, the former director of the CIA, the biggest trio of government gangsters that blockaded the Russiagate investigation. And now we have Robert Hur, who used to be a senior partner at Gibson Dunn. Is the new special counsel with, the guys that we were just talking about. And we talked about on your show all the problems with his appointment as special counsel. But this should show America the corruption in the swamp is not just nested in the lobbying industry. But you're right, Stephen. I've never heard anyone say it. The biggest problem is the law firms surrounding him. Perkins Coie, Gibson Dunn,
Big time.
King Spalding. They hire on a circular basis government gangsters.
The State of the Union's coming up, and the president's got to, and I think will because he believes this, we got to move this. Because that's the only way we keep 1.5 degrees alive. So how do we get there? Well, the lesson I've learned in the last years, and I learned it as secretary, and I've learned it since, reinforced in spades, is money, 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 money. And I'm sorry to say that. I mean, yes, technology. Yes, exciting new initiatives. Yes, organizing. Winning races politically. I mean, what happened in the midterms in the United States is nothing less than miraculous. And it happened because young people voted. And the second most voted issue was climate. It's a huge deal. But we have to go further. I have said this before, but I say it again. I'm convinced we will get to a low-carbon, no-carbon economy. We're going to get there because we have to. I am not convinced we're going to get there in time to do what the scientists said, which is avoid the worst consequences of the crisis.
There can be no real peace while one American is dying someplace in the world for the rest of us. We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. And this idea that government is beholden to the people, that it has no other source of power except the sovereign people, is still the newest and the most unique idea in all the long history of man's relation to man. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves. no words to express the extraordinary strength and character of this breed of people we call American. They're concerned, yes. They're not frightened. They're disturbed, but not dismayed. They are the kind of men and women Tom Paine had in mind when he wrote during the darkest days of the American Revolution. We have it in our power to begin the world over again.
Ladies and gentlemen of our armed forces, on behalf of a grateful Commander-in-Chief, I salute you.
Each time a person stands up for an idea or acts to improve the lot of others or strikes out against injustice, he or she sends forth a tiny ripple of hope, and crossing each other from a million different centers of energy and daring, those ripples build a current that can sweep down the mightiest walls of oppression and resistance.
Plaguing our country.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media. More alarming, some media outlets publish these same fake stories without checking facts first.
The sharing of biased and false news has become all too common on social media.
More alarming, some media outlets publish these stories without checking facts first.
Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
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 There are only 4 companies. CBS seems to be independent, but is owned by the same billionaire as Viacom. When you give people the illusion of choice, they believe they are free. All you have to do is follow the money.
You're going to want to share this. Here's a quick clip about central banking and book burning I think you should check out.
So when you get a book that's banned, that means there's something in there that you need to know. So this book is called History of Central Banking. What does Hitler, JFK, Lincoln, Gaddafi, Napoleon, Julius Caesar, Tsar Nicholas II have in common? They all tried to do state banking and they all got either killed or thrown into a war.
united allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen, fellow Americans, American patriots, I'm sure I do not come before you tonight as a complete stranger. You all have heard of me through the Jewish-controlled press as a creature with horns, a cloven hoof, and a long tail. We, with American ideals, demand that our government shall be returned to the American people who founded it. If you ask what we are actively fighting for under our charter, first, a social just white Gentile ruled United States. Second, Gentile-controlled labor union, free from Jewish Moscow-directed domination.
Crazy. We don't know a lot about our past. I'm not pro-Hitler, but things are always such a gray area, it's hard to see it in black or white. Sometimes you can only see it when you look at the money.
Ja, das deutsche Volk war ja damals eine Demokratie vor uns. Und es ist ausgeplündert und ausgepresst worden. Nein, was heißt für diese internationalen Hyänen Demokratie oder autoritärer Staat? Das interessiert die gar nicht. Es interessiert sie nur eines. Ist jemand bereit, sich ausplündern zu lassen? Ja oder nein? Ist jemand dumm genug, dabei stillzuhalten? Ja oder nein? Und wenn eine Demokratie dumm genug ist, dabei stillzuhalten, dann ist sie gut. Und wenn ein autoritärer Staat erklärt, wir plündern unser Volk nicht aus, weder innen noch außen, dann ist das schlecht. In diesen Ländern regiert tatsächlich das Kapital. Sie reden von der Freiheit der Presse. In Wirklichkeit hat jede dieser Zeitungen einen Herrn. Und dieser Herr ist in jedem Fall der Geldgeber. Diese Presse moduliert nun die öffentliche Meinung. Diese Parteien unterscheiden sich so wenig voneinander, als sie früher bei uns voneinander unterschieden haben. Sie kennen sie ja, die alten Parteien. Das war immer eines und dasselbe. Nun müsste man doch meinen, dass vor allem in diesen Ländern der Freiheit und des Reichtums ein unerhörtes Wohlleben für das Volk bestehen müsste. Es ist aber umgekehrt. In diesen Ländern der sogenannten Demokratie wird ja überhaupt gar nicht das Volk in den Mittelpunkt der Betrachtung gerückt. Was entscheidend ist ausschließlich die Existenz dieser paar Macher der Demokratie. Das heißt also, die Existenz dieser paar hundert gigantischen Kapitalisten, die im Besitz ihrer ganzen Werke, ihrer ganzen Aktien sind und die letzten Endes damit diese Völker ausschließlich dirigieren, die breite Masse interessiert sie nicht gering. Es sind die einzigen, die wirklich als internationale Elemente anzusprechen sind, weil sie überall ihre Geschäfte betätigen können. Es ist eine kleine, wurzellose, internationale Clique, die die Völker gegeneinander hetzt, die nicht will, dass sie zur Ruhe kommen. Sie können uns unterdrücken. Sie können uns meinetwegen töten. Kapitulieren werden wir nicht. Unser deutsches Volk siegt heil! Sie haben früher alle gelacht, diese Juden. Sie haben das für einen Spaß gehalten. Sie lachen heute nicht mehr. Wir wissen, es ist ein blutiger Ernst geworden. Es war doch ein Kampf, besonders auch gegen das Volk, das in unserem Land schon fast allmächtig zu sein schien. Der Kampf gegen das Judentum. Eine satanische Macht, die von unserem ganzen Volk Besitz ergriffen hatte, die alle Schlüsselstellungen des geistigen, intellektuellen Lebens, aber auch des politischen und des wirtschaftlichen in ihre Hand gebracht hatte. Und das von den Schlüsselstellungen aus die ganze Nation überwachte. Eine Macht, die zugleich auch Einfluss besaß, denjenigen, wenn notwendig sogar mit dem Gesetz zu verfolgen, der es unternahm, sich den Kampf gegen diese Macht anzuschließen und der bereit war, Widerstand dem Vordringen dieser Macht entgegenzusetzen. Das allmächtige Judentum hat uns damals den Krieg angesagt. Und wir haben gearbeitet. Was haben wir geschafft in den Jahren bis 1939? In eben dem Maß wuchs wieder der Neid. Der gleichen Männer, die damals bereits Deutschland den Krieg versucht hatten. Die Herrn Churchill begannen sofort wieder zu hetzen. Die Mr. Eden und dann natürlich den Juden an der Spitze, ein Orbelei, wie sie alle heißen. Sie begannen nun ihre Hetze, Jahr für Jahr. Man sagte allerdings, ja, er rüstet. Ja, das habe ich nun immer getan. Man hat mir früher auch gesagt, warum haben Sie denn dann eine SA, wenn Sie den Frieden wollen? Warum machen Sie sich denn dann eine SS, wenn Sie sowieso nur die Brüderlichkeit wollen? Weil es Leute gibt, die das nicht wollen. Und denen wollen Sie zeigen, dass sie auch für den anderen Fall gerüstet sind.
This is over 2 years of active digging every single day and shoving things in different categories. This was a very hard thing to put together, and I think you're going to enjoy it a lot. So it all boils down, it started in 1945 when the Nazi war ended and Operation Paperclip started. Operation Paperclip, real quick, was just basically an operation where the United States took Nazi scientists, moved them into the United States, changed their name because they wanted their intel. Things like MK Ultra and other terrible things. As soon as the war with the Nazis ended, the United Nations was found based on a treaty. Operation Paperclip soon led to things like Operation Mockingbird, basically controlling the media through corporations. All of this, there's proof, so much proof in this video. You're gonna love it, it's gonna blow your mind. So in 1945, during the treaty, the United Nations, the UN, was given certain territories of the United States, Alaska and Hawaii. That's why there's that argument about how many states we actually have. And they were actually given the island of Manhattan and New York. New York does not own Manhattan. The United States does not own Manhattan. That's a United Nations owned from us. Check out this clip explaining it.
Out of all of our enemies and all of our allies, we were the only country that was not a United Nations country. So the only way we ended the war was September 7th, 1945. We signed the United Nations Treaty, which took effect 90 days later on December 7th, 1945, which coincidentally Pearl Harbor was December 7th, 1941. So we ended the war technically on the same day that it started, but we signed the United Nations Treaty. We gave them Manhattan Island. How do we know that? Well, Rudy Giovanni, when he was the mayor of New York City, the press came to him and said, can't we do something about all these guys with all these parking tickets down there on Manhattan Island? And he said, I don't have any control over Manhattan Island. I'm just the mayor of New York. Well, isn't Manhattan right smack dab in the middle of New York City?
Wendigo.
Yeah, because it's the United Nations owned it.
Blico Blaine.
We gave it to them in the 1945 treaty, United Nations Treaty. We gave them 50 miles along the Mexican border as well. Did you know that? 50 miles wide. Those farmers down there that are right up against the border think they own their own land. They're sitting on the United Nations property. What about Alaska and Hawaii that became states after December 7, 1945? If you look in our laws, it says we have 47 states and Canada in our laws. We don't have Alaska and Hawaii. They're under the United Nations. You know what else we gave them? Part of our national parks, we gave them all of our police forces except our county sheriff's departments. Every city police force in the United States is United Nations. I built the City of Bend Police Department building, and on the blueprints there were 2 locker rooms. Each locker room had 115 lockers in them, and a bench down the middle, and all these lockers. In both rooms
Wendigo
were identical, except this one had a vault door, but they were identical. Same lockers. Forgive my artwork. I'm not much of an artist. But when I built the City of Bend Police Department building, I had to build 2 locker rooms.
Wendigo.
And I said, how come? Well, because this one's filled with the duty uniforms and this one's filled with their United Nations uniforms.